Hey everybody, it's just Kristen Chavis. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, welcome, child. And if you are a returning subscriber, I'm so glad that you are here back with me today. All right, let's get into it.
It's another one for real. K-Chavis, I call you for real because you the truth.
Okay, so last week I had you guys interpret 3 of my dreams, and we talked about and discussed what those dreams meant. Okay, you should have taken time out to interpret them. If you didn't, make sure you go back, see what you see in those dreams, and let me know and comment it below, or you can email me. Okay, all right, so this week we're going to talk about what's happened in the past week, the dream that I have that corresponds with that, and we're also going to talk about the danger of the unhealed prophet. Okay, so a few weeks ago, at the end of January, I would say that's what, almost 2 months ago, at the end of January, I shared with you guys that a storm was coming, and I also shared with you guys that I had a dream where it was really quick, where I saw Trump's face. It was like an impression. He was standing to the side, and then I saw these guys in this military tactical gear, like bulletproof vest or something like that, and they all were facing him, and then they turned and put the guns on a group of people, small group of people. And if you live in America, as you know, or if you don't live in America and you pay attention to America's news, there has been a shooting in Colorado, and there also was a shooting in a spa. And these were small groups of people, small numbers. And remember, if you go back, I said in the dream, I was like, they're planning a civil war. And I know in the dream, the Lord was trying to let me know that Trump was behind all of this stuff. And it's kind of difficult. I'm still doing research on specifically what that means for him to be behind it, but also the people working on his behalf, because all 4 years he's been saying and sowing seeds of discord, and during that 4 years there's a specific group of people that have been following what he's been saying, that have believed in what he's been saying, believes that he's their savior or America's savior. So there's been a following that has been built up to support his ideals and his thinking, that would be willing to carry out such agenda. Okay, even with the Asians being targeted, you know, when coronavirus came out, it was the China virus. He never really called it what it was. So there's always been this subliminal targeting that's been happening in America. This group of people that are terrorists, that can be terrorists, that can terrorize people. And you will know these things from the signs that are happening in the earth, where we have seen small groups of people being attacked, because it is racially motivated, it is Trump motivated, it is a motivation sent by the enemy, sent by the devil, that this nation needs to be cleansed, but you want to cleanse it with violence. And when you try to cleanse it with violence, that's how you know it's from the enemy. So all of this stuff has been happening, and a friend of mine, we talked about how the undercurrent or the motivation of all of these things is to show that it's an attack, a direct attack on the current administration. It's trying to show that Biden is weak, or he can't do the job, or he has no control over this nation. And that's just ridiculous, because no president has the control over every individual's mind or their mind frame, even though we know and we've seen that a president can form and shape and influence the minds of people in this country, you cannot place that blame on that one person. And that's why I told you guys way back, I said when we transition into this new administration, that does not mean that things are over. It will be hard times, but there's more stuff coming. That's specifically what the Lord said. He's not through doing the work, but we were not out of the clear. We were not in the clear. We were not out of the woods as far as stuff happening. I saw, and I believe I told you guys that they were going to try to make this transition difficult. They were going to try to make even them being in the White House a difficult stay. And Biden already has a lot that he inherited, a lot on his hands, some things he won't even speak of that they inherited, and even more has been placed on his shoulders. So keep him lifted up. It's not about Republicans being holy and pure and Democrats being satanic and all of that stuff. We are all God's people, whether we have good ways or bad ways. We are all God's people, whether we agree with each other or not. We are all God's children, and we have to live here. We have to cohabitate here, and it makes no sense for us to be divided on principles and your own thoughts and opinions. It's so many people that feel like your way is your way or the highway, and that's not how it's gonna work. That's not how it's gonna ever work. If it's your way or the highway, that's where you put people in bondage and you put people in slavery, and that's not what God called us to be in. If it were so, he wouldn't have given us our own mind, and he wouldn't have given us free will if he wanted us to be under somebody's control or under somebody's thoughts and opinions. He wouldn't have given us that. He would have just allowed us to be little robots and just continue to move and do things how we've been doing. But he's given us free will. So let's stop the division. Let's stop it. Let's stop it. Learn how to love people, okay? Even if they get on your nerves, learn how to love them. All right, so the next thing that we're going to transition into is, this is something that dropped in my spirit, and I just want to share this with you guys. The dangers of the unhealed prophet. There is a danger of the unhealed prophet. I've been seeing this. There's a lot of research and study that the Lord has taken me on years prior to this. And there's so far I've identified two types of prophets, or what can happen to a prophet or a seer if they are unhealed. There's two really big spectrums of it, but it will make sense once I get to it. All right, so prophets, we have to go through a series of rejection and trauma and all sorts of things that happen to prophets. And many times, if we don't learn how to let that thing go and learn that it all works together for your good, and it's not meant to be a crutch or cripple you, but it's meant to propel you into your destiny, it can be a stumbling block for us. There are some prophets that go through trauma that are unhealed, and they end up on a spectrum where they become narcissistic. They have strong narcissistic traits. Still very gifted, because God can speak through anyone. God can use anyone. Still very gifted, but still very toxic and manipulative. And they use those gifts to manipulate people. They can see people's weaknesses and they prey on that. And that comes from the conditioning of their childhood. Maybe they were raised by a narcissistic parent. Maybe they were raised in just a hellish, trying home that grew up with no empathy, grew up with no emotional support. You just had to stand on your 2 feet and push, and you were like an ox. You had to just mow the plow, you just had to work. It was no weakness tolerated. It was no feelings tolerated. It was no hugs. It was None of that stuff, which caused that side of that person to die off. So now when they go throughout the world, they see that as a form of weakness in people, and they preach that, and they hate that part of that person, and they know how to exploit that part of the person. They know how to use it to their advantage. These people have very strong spirits of discernment. And many times they come out as the most wonderful, genuine, loving people you would ever meet. They seem very perfect, but somewhere down the road they flip on you, or once they've used everything they could out of you, or once you are no longer any benefit to them, that's when you get discarded. It could be they can ghost on you at a drop of a dime, or they may just kind of drag you along, or they drag people along. That's the danger of an unhealed prophet or an unhealed seer, prophetic person that has gone through a tremendous amount of trauma, a tremendous amount of hurt, that has not fully been let go, nurtured, healed, delivered. When that thing has been untouched and has not been dealt with, it can lead not only themselves in bondage, but other people in bondage. Many times these type of people end up in leadership positions. These type of people end up being parents. These type of people end up becoming really successful in life. Why do they become really successful in life? Because they can see which people they can use and exploit to get them where they want to be, to get them to the place they want to be. And a lot of times they get away with it because they're good at exploiting people's weaknesses. They're good at finding out what kind of dirt or whatever they can use to expose a person if they don't play the way they want them to play. So that's the danger of unhealed prophet, and what spectrum they could be on it. Of course, there can be some in the middle ground, but that's the most extreme point that I've seen. And many times you will see that this person is gifted, and you can see the potential in this person and what this person can be, but that don't mean that person want to be that. So you may want to leave that alone. It ain't your job to pull it out and try to transform them, because them people like where they at. They have to come to the realization on their own that they don't want to be in a situation like that or be in a place like that anymore. Okay, so on the other spectrum, on the other side of the unhealed prophet, is the empath, what psychology would call the empath, and which is the seer. Okay, this person has a very, very strong spirit of discernment where they can feel, sense, and know things about people. Sometimes it makes them very, very uncomfortable to be around people because you feel and sense what's going on. Maybe you don't like to be touched, because if a person touched you, then you feel everything that they're going through, and then you got to try to pray that off, and you just ain't trying to deal with all that. Okay, some of these people don't like going to the grocery store when it's a lot of people in there. It's just too much. It's too much going on. But it's because God's made your spirit to where it's like you're a big outlet, and when you pass in front of people, it's like the plug goes into those different outlets, and you connect in, or they connect into you, and you sense and feel what they're going through, and you don't like that. You don't have time for that. Now, if you cover yourself with the whole armor of God, Ephesians 6:12, that will block those outages, okay, those portals. Okay, it will block it for you so that you will be able to function in regular life and not just have to go grocery shop at 2 and 3 in the morning. Okay, and I guarantee you will see a difference. Okay, so on the very, very other side or other spectrum of this thing, of the unhealed prophet, is the empath, the seer, the one that's full of empathy. This person, the narcissist, has no empathy. The one that's full of empathy and can sense and feel, and is very loving, very affectionate, But this prophet also grew up in a home with rejection. This prophet also, or seer, also grew up dealing with your own set of traumas, own set of hurt. But you will find that this person that is sensitive to other people's needs, because you're connected and tapped into God's spirit, because you're sensitive to other people's needs, you'll oftentimes be drawn to this side, this narcissist over here. You'll be drawn to him or her because you will see and understand what this person has gone through. Okay, you can feel it. You just get it. And this person knows that if they share their hurt and pain with somebody, that's their way in, but you don't know that yet. But they'll often share their hurt and pain, what they've been through, what their mama did to them, what their daddy did to them, what they went through. A lot of times they grew up without their parents, and you or whomever, this empath, this more sensitive prophet, more sensitive seer, connects with this person, with this spirit. They drawn together like a moth to a flame. Because honestly, this person admires, in a way, the fact that this person can relate to other people and can understand people. But it becomes a time where this narcissistic personality spirit tries to make this person, the empath, feel like they are weak because they can feel, sense, and relate to other people. They begin to see this as a weakness. But at first, it is seen as just they were like, oh, you're such a wonderful person, you're a beautiful person, and all of that. And then it's seen as a weakness. Okay. Now the danger of a prophet that is more sensitive, an empath, a seer, whatever you want to call them, the danger of this person being so in tune and being so apathetic or sympathetic, that's the word, sympathetic to what other people are going through, is that this person oftentimes gets attached to many people that it shouldn't be attached to and gets stuck in that place. And if you get attached to toxic people, that keeps you in a cycle. Okay. And many times this type of person gets stuck in a cycle with this person, and it's very abusive, it's very tormenting, and it breaks that person. Okay. Because if you're trying to fix a broken person that God did not tell you to fix, you will end up broken, and that other person may or may not end up healed. Because the issue with the person that's over here is that they don't think they need help. They think that everybody else need help. They think that everybody else got the issue. They think that everybody else got the problem. And really, y'all over there need to be fixed. I'm good. And you can't tell this person ever that they need help, because they're going to always feel offended. They're going to always feel like you're attacking them. You can't ever eat, no matter how much you talk to them in love, it's not going to be received. Now, the narcissist could talk to the empath or the seer, the sensitive seer. I like that, the sensitive seer, and tell them what they need to fix and what they need to work on. And the sensitive seer may consider it. You know, they may reject it at first, but once the narcissist keeps, the narcissistic prophet, the stern prophet, keeps saying that over here, most of the time that person over here, the sensitive prophet, the sensitive seer, stern seer, sensitive seer, usually gives in because they love that person, because they want to please that person. Or even if they're not in a committed relationship and is in leadership or ministry or whatever, even a boss, because you want to do better, you're like, this person always tries to see things from all sides. So they're like, maybe I do need to work on something. Maybe I do need to fix that. Maybe I am tripping. Maybe. So this sensitive seer begins to question everything about their reality, everything about themselves, and even tries to transform everything about themselves just to meet the need of the stern seer. Okay. And when they do that, they end up losing themselves and end up doubting everything about who they are in Christ, trying to please the stern seer. Okay. And remember, this could be a pastor, this could be a husband, this could be a wife, this could be whomever. Okay. And that is abuse. All right. That is abuse to oneself. That is a abuse of love, of leadership, and of trust. That is an abuse. But when both spectrum side of the coin are in a place where they are not healed, in a place where they are not delivered, they both end up in the same cycle. Okay, they both end up in the same rut of needing to be healed. All right. So we need to understand, as the body of Christ and as seers, how important healing needs to be for us, how important healing needs to take place. Okay, so on this spectrum, identify the rejection, identify the regret. Many times this one over here has been groomed. The sensitive seer has been groomed to tolerate abuse from a young age. But because of your tender heart, because of your loving heart, you have learned, your coping mechanism has been to overlook people's foolishness, to overlook what people say and say, oh, that's just how they are. Okay. And you have to understand that that is a grooming technique you may have experienced from your parents. God does not want you to stay in that bondage. You got to come out of that bondage, okay? Where you're a people pleaser, where you're trying to fix everything, okay? There is a strong habit. Many of these people are workaholics because they don't want to face what's really going on, and they're always trying to fix, always trying to help, wanting some sense of validation or some sense of feeling needed. You have to fix that. You have to undo that. Ask God, what's the root of it? What's the source of it? Because if you're stuck in that root and stuck in that source of always trying to fix, always trying to make something better, volunteering yourself to make something better, and nobody ever asked you to do it, even if it seems harmless, you are causing yourself to be in an unnecessary cycle that the Lord doesn't want you to be in. That same energy that you're putting into others, you need to be putting that energy into yourself. There's a time and a season to help people. There's a time and a season to be a blessing. I will never say that you're not supposed to help people, period. But there is a time and a season for everything. And if you are overexerting yourself, and it seems like it's for a good cause, doesn't necessarily mean that's the will of God for your life. So you always want to seek the will of God for your life and make sure that you're not being Mrs. or Mr. Fix-It in that area, and you're truly called to do that. Okay, I can say that because I have been in that position, and God had to show me where my hurt, my trauma was, and I had to pray against that and had to form a new habit there. It was kind of hard to break, but I had to remember to always try to put myself first and identify where I was trying to help too much, or where I was trying to help and he didn't even tell me to do that. Because you have to put yourself first. And a lot of times, if you helping people that don't want your help, or giving out advice to people that don't want your advice, it's always going to be wasted time. Always. And you're going to feel like you're beating a dead horse or you're putting your energy into a black hole. And that's exactly what it is, because those people did not ask you for that. You can see where they are. You can see what they need. You can see where they're going, and it may be leading them to destruction. But if those people didn't verbally ask you for your advice or verbally ask you how to get out of something, then it's not your place to give that advice, give that energy into that thing, and they didn't ask for it. It's going to always fall to the ground. It's going to always be repelled, and you're going to be drained and exhausted trying to exert too much energy into a person like that, into someone's life. When they're ready for it, it'll be like butter. It'll be easy and it'll flow. Okay, so on this end, recognize those things. Trying to fix things, recognize that trauma. Okay, it can be reversed. It can keep you out of cycles, out of marriages, out of relationships, out of ministries where you will be abused. Some people are attracted to that abuse because that's how they've been groomed as a kid. Especially in the Black family, we have been taught to just, when things happen, to just sweep it under the rug, just let it go. And forgiveness is not that I forgive you and I still have to sit up and look in your face and I'm holding all of this trauma inside of me. Forgiveness is, I'm going to let it go so that my soul can still be intact, but I'm going to remove myself from the abuser, from the attacker, and I don't have to be in the same space as them. I don't have to be at the family reunion with them. I don't have to go to church with them, and I'm going to be okay. I have forgiven them. I just don't have to be around them. That's what we need to normalize. That's what we need to talk about. But many times, the empath, the sensitive seer, and the stern narcissist have it confused as to what true forgiveness is. Okay, and this person wrestles with, well, if I truly forgave them, then I will have to be able to deal with them. I can deal with them. I can be with them, and all of that. And the problem is that this person over here, sensitive seer, is always doing the forgiving. Is always having to apologize for stuff they didn't do. Always having to overlook everybody else's issue. And this one over here, the stern seer, never acknowledges its faults, never acknowledges its wrongdoings, and is often offending others, often saying things and saying that, oh, I didn't mean it, or it was just a joke. And you know, sensitive seer knew good and well, knew good and well that person was serious, that they meant what they said. And if you didn't mean what you said, what did you mean? And this person tries to make it seem like it wasn't that. Okay. And they will never own up to their faults. They will never do that, because that shows a sign of weakness, and they don't want to be like you. You are offensive. So they will never own up to that. Okay. And this person has to come to terms or realizes that, okay? If these two entities, if these two people stay together, relationship, whatever type of relationship it is, one of them is going to have to die in order for the relationship to live, in order for the relationship to thrive. When I say die, one of them is going to have to die to self, to themselves as a person, who they are, in order for this one to thrive. Okay? And it's going to be like this. Way down. Because God doesn't want you to live and operate like that, it will become uncomfortable. Some people along the way find a way to cope with it. whether they find somebody else or whatever. They find a way to cope with it. But a lot of times, the sensitive seer will become so uncomfortable and so discontent because they will say, you know what, I can't deal with this no more. And they will eventually find a way or get the strength or the courage to exit this thing. Okay. The problem is, because they have been beat down so much by the stern seer about their choices, their thoughts, they don't rely on their own instincts anymore. They don't feel like their own instincts are smart decisions. And they will second guess themselves and second guess themselves and second guess themselves and want to leave but can't leave because a stronghold has been put there. There is a tie. In psychology, it's called a trauma bond. But there's a tie, there's a stronghold there that is keeping that sensitive seer in this relationship. Okay? It's like a roller coaster or like a seesaw. It's up and down, up and down. And the way the sensitive seer is they know how to hold on and push through hurt, pain, hell. They can take a lot. They can take a lot from a person, and they can take a lot from life. So they just keep rolling with the punches, you know? And the way they survive is they look at, okay, this person is nice sometimes. Sometimes they're not that bad, you know? It's some bad stuff about them, but they're not that bad, so I should be able to deal with it. I can deal with it because in order to survive, you begin to pinpoint little things about them that you liked from the beginning, or you've seen goodness in them at some point. So because you've seen goodness in them at some point, may have not been the whole point, but at some point, you stay in that cycle. You stay in that situation because there becomes a distorted reality of your viewpoint where it may be a bunch of terrible stuff over here that this person has done and said to you, and a little bit of goodness they've said to you, but your distorted reality only allows you to see this. Not your distorted reality only allows you to see this part, okay, and not this part. When you tell people your story, they hear and see this part and be like, nah, I wouldn't be able to deal with it. But the sensitive seer will write it off, be like, oh, well, you know, they're still a good person. They're still this. They don't usually do that. They don't use, you know, they make excuses. You make excuses for them, and you shouldn't. Okay. So there comes a time and a point where God will remove the blinders off of your eyes. And sometimes it's slowly to where when you're in this situation where you're down here and you feel uncomfortable, you feel like you're dying on the inside, God will start to make you realize, like, hey, you're not crazy and there's nothing wrong with you. This person actually got the issues and you don't. And you'll do better over here by yourself. You can do bad by yourself. You don't need nobody to tell you that you got all these issues that you don't have. Okay? That's called gaslighting. So that is the predicament of the sensitive seer. The stern seer, like I said, the stern seer has to seek counseling. Not just godly counseling, not just stuff that they want to hear, but they need someone that is equipped in an area dealing with people with trauma, equipped in an area with people dealing with narcissistic personality disorder, or even an antisocial disorder. They need somebody equipped in that will be able to recognize that this person knows how to manipulate things and people for their own personal gain, because that was their own survival tactic. It's to figure out quickly. They had to discern quickly what people liked, what people don't like, so that they would survive, so that they could live in this world, because life had beat them down so bad. Their home life had beat them down so bad. So they had to figure out quickly what mama liked, what daddy liked, that would get them to shut up, that would get them to quit cussing them out, that would get them to not beat on them, that would get them to show some sort of mercy. So they had to figure that out, and they had to exploit that so that they could have some sort of peace. I understand it. I get it. But there has to be some healing that takes place there, because if there's no healing that takes place, if that thing and the root of it is not identified, then that person can be stuck in that cycle where they're going through life manipulating people, taking advantage of people. Yeah, they may be boosting themselves up in many ways, but they will never find true love and find true happiness, because they are not happy with themselves. Over here is really a very insecure person. Okay. They have been taught from an early age and groomed from an early age to be insecure and to question all the good things about themselves. All their strengths were seen as weaknesses, which is why they try to put that off onto a person that's strong, that's confident, and that's okay with being sensitive. They were not uplifted in those types of qualities. So that's why they try to project how they really feel onto this person, the sensitive seer. All right. So if the healing doesn't take place, if the deliverance doesn't take place, we find that these people can stay in these cycles, can stay in this place. Many times this person is labeled a womanizer or even labeled a gold digger. Okay? Because these people know how to get what they want, because they can see, they have the gift to see exactly where people are and see what people are going through and use it to their advantage. Okay, so that's the danger of the unhealed prophet. That's the danger of what could take place if God's people, his seers, do not receive the healing, or they end up in situations where they can be manipulate others, or be abused. Okay, so next week we'll talk more in detail about the danger of the unhealed prophet. Part 2, we'll talk about what it looks like in relationships. We'll talk about what people experience going through that. And if you have any questions, if you need any prayer requests or whatever, you can submit those prayer requests to my email, trueworshipers111@gmail.com. It's in the description box. I love you guys. I hope you guys were blessed by this, and I will see you guys again next week. All right. Bye-bye.